President Donald Trump in the White House facing a broad pushback over his claim that President Obama ordered the wiretapping of Trump Tower during the campaign. But is the idea so far-fetched? The Trump administration is battling a mountain of leaks they suspect are coming from Obama holdovers. Former Attorney General Michael Mukasey says President Trump is partially right, but doesn't think the proof should be made public. Listen.
I think the president was not correct, certainly, in saying that President Obama ordered a tap on a server in Trump Tower. However, I think he's right in that there was surveillance and that it was conducted at the behest of the attorney of the Justice Department through the FISA court. And the only way to verify whether there was surveillance is to disclose the warrant and to disclose the fruits of it, and that should not be done even in a political storm as hot as this one.
Joining me now, Marianne Marsh, former senior advisor to John Kerry, and Katie Pavlich, news editor for townhall.com and a Fox News contributor. Good to see you both this morning.
Good morning.
All right, also on the Sunday shows yesterday, the former director of national intelligence, James Clapper, said, Katie, that if this went on, he would know about it. He categorically denied it. So why is that not the end of the story?
Well, let's not forget who James Clapper is and the lack of credibility that he has. He's the same NSA director who lied under oath about the fact that the NSA was also surveilling Americans based on some of the things that he wouldn't disclose. And so he's not exactly the best source for the Obama administration and the left to be using when it comes to battling this issue. But in terms of how we move forward with this, it's going to be very difficult for either side to get any kind of evidence, because if there is an ongoing investigation with the FBI, they're going to deny it. Information to be able to produce it to the public as evidence, because again, it's an ongoing investigation. So whether this is true or not is still to be seen. It's not out of the question based on the Obama administration's behavior during Obama's 8 years in office. And if you look at the statement released by Obama's spokesperson, it doesn't specifically say that the administration, that no one in the administration ordered these wiretaps, which did come to fruition last summer. It specifically says nobody in the White House did. So that doesn't mean that the administration wasn't working on behalf of the president.
Let's bring in Marianne here. Now, Marianne, if there was a legitimate reason that these entities, whether it's the FBI or someone else, felt like there was some kind of national intelligence or counterintelligence issue at stake, they could go to the FISA court. That's why it's there. There are reports, and we don't know, that they went with a request in June of last year. It was denied. They went back in October with a more narrow request, and it was granted. Allegedly. Who knows if and when we'll ever know if that happened. But if they were able to make a legitimate case to someone, and you got to go to one judge, and they're almost never turned down at this FISA court, almost never, it's legit that could have happened, right?
Absolutely. And there are other statutes that you could apply as well. I think what's most interesting to me at this point is we're 48 hours after the initial tweet by Donald Trump, and not one person in government or his own administration have come forward with one shred of evidence in defense of the claims he's made. That is stunning. So I think the way to look at this, I agree with what Katie said in terms of the challenges on both sides right now, but the onus is on Donald Trump to prove these charges. He just charged his predecessor with wiretapping him. And you listen to everyone who's come out in the last 24 hours, and this morning, Kellyanne Conway on this network basically saying, let's all find out together, like this is some great national scavenger hunt. That's not how this works, and it is so injurious to democracy in this country, and what little shred of credibility is left with Donald Trump, given his previous claims about Barack Obama not being born in this country, that millions of undocumented voters voted in this past election. The list is long. Okay. This one tops them all.
Okay, but Katie, if he is responding to reports that are out there publicly about these FISA orders, and we can't get our hands on them. We understand that the White House, Don McGahn, White House counsel, may be trying to find out if they're legit, if they're true, if they happened. If he's responding to those, and those could have been a legitimate law enforcement objective, those could be legitimate documents. I mean, he didn't pluck this out of thin air.
No, there are a number of media reports from the Washington Post to the New York Times specifically that talks about the fact that there were wiretapped communications that were given to the Obama White House about Trump administration communications with the Russians. And so this isn't something that he just threw out there. I think he probably could have been a little more detailed and precise with his language. There's a difference between a wiretap and surveillance, and that's something that he can ask his people who are in place to go look at and clarify. It's something that his Justice Department can look at and try to clarify for him. So maybe he should have asked for that before coming out on Twitter. But this idea that this is out of the question, given the vast evidence of the Obama administration using the government to target their enemies, whether it's Angela Merkel, Benjamin Netanyahu overseas, or whether it's the IRS targeting Tea Party groups here at home, there's plenty of evidence from the Obama administration of them doing this, and it's not out of the question based on the evidence we have in public reporting that this was actually done. The requests of the FISA courts were made. We know that is true. Allegedly, one was granted. We know that is true. And so there is evidence there. We'll see how it plays out and whether we can get any more hands on anything solid.
And the wording is very important, and that's on the president to get that right, because it does make a big difference. I want to quickly play a little bit from Sarah Huckabee Sanders from the White House and then get your reaction, Marianne.
Look, I love how now anonymous sources don't matter anymore. We've been dealing with anonymous sources and having to fight back against that for the last 6 months.
So, Marianne, are the anonymous sources good enough on these FISA orders? And if not, why not?
Well, the source this time was Donald Trump. That's the problem
here. But he's referring to sources that have anonymously been reported in the New York Times, Heat Street, The Guardian, all kinds of other places.
And that's irresponsible of him, given the position he's in. I think the only explanation here, Shannon, is he decided to disclose his information on his own, to define it on his terms before other things come out. So he's now put this in the starkest possible political terms to blame his predecessor because his supporters will believe it and defend him to the end. That says to me there's more coming, and that's bad news for Donald Trump.
We will see in the coming days, but just so I note, anonymous sources okay sometimes in the New York Times, sometimes not okay in the New York Times. Marianne and Katie, we got to leave it there. Thank you both.
Thanks, Shannon.
Also coming today.